Hello everyone, this is the Crimson Cure, welcoming you to the Crimson Tower, a place where we keep a feminine foot on the neck of the gynocracy, feminism, and black male misandry. So go ahead, pull up a chair, stay a while, and listen. Hey everyone, how are we doing today? That's gonna give people a few more minutes to get in. I'm tired. I'm kind of tired. I'm not even gonna lie. How you feeling? Let everybody know how you feeling, cause I'm tired.
I'm a little bit awake. I had a little breakfast in me, just to get me up and running. But I'm a little tired. It's been a long night. It was funny though. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. Like I said, just a little tired. My thoughts are a little lethargic. Wait, see, I hate that. I hate clicking on a link. I am so sorry, and it won't let me turn it off. I really hate clicking a link because I had a link, and then because I have a tab open because I'm gonna read something.
Okay.
And then the ads play. I hate that. Anyway.
Good morning, everybody.
Welcome. Morning. Hey, it's me, C. Bishop Nas Mogul. Yeah, I'm from Chicago, C. Yeah, fake smart mouth is a must. In Chicago, you have to know how to be feminine and masculine. I'm sorry. You have to master being both of them. Because the femininity in Chicago is so low. Like, y'all have no idea. These chicks are really, really masculine. No matter how they look, no matter how they're dressed, these chicks are super masculine.
Yeah.
And the femininity is really, really low to the point where if you are just polite in a feminine way, dudes will flock to you and be like, ooh, queen. They be so thirsty for any kind of femininity that you have a hard time being feminine in Chicago if you don't want a throng of men like following you around. You really have to master the mask, the kind of the hardcore. I'm a little bit masculine. I'm kind of determined. I'm a little bit mean. Don't talk to me. Because if you run around like, oh, I'm happy and feminine and a lady, you're going to have like a trail of dudes behind you. You really are. And it's not going to necessarily be pleasant that you have that. So, and it get, interesting.
Interesting already.
Bankroll Becca with a troll super chat. Thank you for the troll super chat. I won't do you the honor of reading it because it's trolling.
Mhm.
But the money not a troll. So thank you. That goes into the YouTube account. That goes into the coffers. So boop, boop.
They starting
I
already.
haven't had a troll. I haven't had an open trolling in a long time. I must be moving up in the ranks.
Must be. I mean, hey, it's a way to start the morning, I guess.
The way to start the morning, right? Let me get a little drink of water behind that. Mm. Mm.
It'll help clear up that troll dander.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Clear it out in the chat.
No, you're definitely right about women being diet dudes to an extent. Just in the approach. I mean, but it depends on you as a guy. But I get it's a safety measure in a sense because there's some dehydrated characters out there.
Mm-hmm.
Real time, like
Yeah.
mm-mm.
You got to be a princess and a thug in Chicago. You can't just be one or the other. Mm-hmm.
A lady in hardcore Tims.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hey, Tamitra. Hey, Dice. Is Chicago being gentrified like NYC? Yeah, pretty much.
Mm.
We still have large pockets of hoods. It's harder to see in Chicago because although we are sort of segregated in different communities, all the communities are on top of each other. So like you'll have a community of mansions next to the hood.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic in Chicago because like right here on the south side, you've got the Chatham area. And then right next to the Chatham area, you have Jackson Heights. Jackson Heights is full of mini mansions.
Mm.
Now, it's not a gated community, but those circumference of blocks are extremely beautiful and the homes are huge.
Yeah.
And the cars are Benz and Bentleys and you know what I'm saying? But it's right there. Like if you go a couple of blocks over, it's the hood. So Chicago is kind of interested in that way anyway. So we've been over the past maybe 10 or so years been kind of integrating anyway because I've seen some Pakistanis in Inglewood.
Yeah.
Because they're building new homes over there. And Inglewood is infamous for being bad. It's a horrible area of the town. It's one of the worst neighborhoods. You get shot or stabbed doing anything in Inglewood. So, but I've seen Pakistanis that were going to school for being doctors or who were doctors because I picked them up in my Uber to work. You go to Inglewood thinking you're going to pick up somebody black and somebody Pakistani comes out and they have on their scrubs and they're going to Cook County Hospital because they're doing their residence there. So it's already kind of mixy a little bit. It's a little bit mixy.
Yeah, it's an interesting blend. You're gonna run into one thing or one extreme to another. Been to Chicago more than enough times to like start seeing, okay, I'd rather be around someone who knows the area than just run blindly and just, you know, skip through the streets like it's cool.
Nakisha, hood in Chicago is both the working class poor and are usually in the bad neighborhood because of the cost of living in Chicago.
Yeah.
So a couple of bedrooms in a decent area is going to run you like $1,300, $1,400, $1,500.
Yeah.
If you want that same couple of bedrooms for less than that, you're going to have to move into the hood. And it doesn't matter that you work every day and that you're not part of the elements because me and my sister are working class, right? We don't participate in the neighborhood tomfoolery, but a block away from me, they're always shooting. You can always hear the shotguns and the Glocks going off. Like, you can hear them outside of my window. Sometimes they're right in the alley. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'm not standing up right now because it might get shot. So, so the working poor and the bad neighborhood is almost the same thing. Now there are neighborhoods that are just really, really, really bad, and it's like if you work, you don't live there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those are strictly Section 8 EBT places. But generally speaking, in Chicago, due to the cost of living, you're gonna, and the rate of pay in Chicago is not that high.
Right.
It's not that high. So, they just now thinking of raising it, I think, to $15 minimum wage or something like that. And that's not necessarily in the near future either. So
I mean, even if they raise the $15, that could push the cost of living up eventually. That's what I'm looking at.
yeah.
So I just don't see the point in that. But kind of brings us what we're going to talk about today.
So nobody's gonna get rid of my troll.
This puts me in a little silly mood today. People gonna try you. I have my ways. I'm trying to get better, so I'm trying to work on me. Yeah, let's do this thing.
All right, so hey, Miss Felicia. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the topic. Y'all excuse me and my hijab. We fighting today. We are in a domestic entanglement. We are in an entanglement, as you can see. So we may fight at any point in time during this broadcast. Y'all just, don't call 12 or nothing like that. If you see me if you see us just fight, if you see the camera go off and you hear like a tussle, just don't even call no 12 or nothing like that. We just know we in here fighting, and then we'll be all right. So today what we're talking about is House of Madness, Quarantine Crazies. And oh, thank you, Felicia. Still cute. And basically how this quarantine and the effect that it's had on people's mental health. Now, maybe I'm weird, but it has not affected me at all.
Me neither.
Maybe because I spent a lot of years as a housewife. And when I say I was a housewife, I mean I was a wife in the house. I was always in the house. And I would stay in the house for weeks at a time until it was time to go grocery shopping or time to do something, or we went somewhere or something like that. But other than that, I was always in the house. And I was just in the house doing stuff, you crafts and you raising the kids and you're doing housework and you find something to do. So I guess because I'm such a homebody, this didn't bother me. Staying at home didn't bother me at all. This quarantine, I was perfectly fine. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I like this social distancing. Don't talk to me. And I would just find something to do. You find some crafts, you go to Dollar Tree, you get you some craft stuff, you draw, you write, you do something. I know how to occupy my mind and my time. So, hey, Father's Time, I know how to occupy my mind and my time. So being isolated, even though my sister's here with me as well, didn't bother me. If I had been alone, it wouldn't have bothered me at all. I would have been just fine. Watch a little TV, like I said, you find something to do. And so I didn't have any sort of negative repercussion. As a matter of fact, I took the time to do a lot of inner work, do a lot of shadow work, do a lot of spiritual work. I have the 10 life values to thank for that, to give me the structure to allow me to do my inner work that I needed to do I got back on a lot of my spiritual things that I had fallen off on. And I think because I was doing that work of the 10 life values, I was able to better cope with the death of my father,
Yeah.
um, which hit me really hard. But I think I was better able to cope with that. I think I coped better with that than I did the loss of my brother and my late husband. Um, and right now, I'm in a pretty stable place. I'm in a stable emotional and mental place. I actually feel a sense of happiness. I feel a sense of peace. I feel just a sense of overall good. I feel okay. You know what I'm saying? And how has it been treating you, Ronan?
Well, I've been able to adjust. I guess growing up nomadic, I mean, always traveling or doing something things, I learned how to adjust to the environment. When it came to the COVID situation, I mainly was spending more time paying bills, going to work, come back to the house, take care of business. Now I wouldn't go too far from the house, but I wasn't really like a club guy or looking to always be in someone's face. And I noticed that some people make that a hard adjustment because that's how they are. Either some real serious extroverts where they got to be around their people and socialize, but it hasn't really changed much for me because I talk to people either in person or on the phone or online. So I learned to be more realistic about my environment. Like I get the safety precautions, but sometimes I needed time to myself. Sometimes I was able to get some better sleep rather than hear some long, drawn out conversations or someone fishing for compliments. Or it just made it easier, like to really um, figure out what I want to do. And some people are creatures. I mean, we're actually creatures of habit. So if you're used to going out of the house, beating traffic, going to a job that you kind of like or hate, and then you go repeat the cycle again and spend time with your friends or whatever. It was a hard test for people to adjust when you had to shut all that down. But me personally, no, I was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it did make me focus on my environment. It made me focus on the physical environment. Like, since we were here, I needed to like where I was. And I was I was living like a transient. After my husband passed away, when I say I was living like a transient, I didn't care about home comfort.
Mm.
I just didn't care about comfort anymore. I didn't care. I was always just clean, so I'm clean anyways. You know what? I'm in a goofy mood because you just made a face, and I was like, "This dude took a game this morning. What's going on under the desk? Like, listen, turn the camera off if you gonna have a little fun. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
I ain't doing none of the sort. I'm just
I'm just playing.
you dirty.
Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You maybe should have got a little something together before you started the show today.
No, I don't do no interpersonal field tests. I'm cool.
So, um, but back to me feeling like a train. I just didn't care about the comfort of it. I was always a clean person, so cleaning, I didn't fall into like dirtiness. But but the way that it looked, the decor and caring about if it was pretty or if it was a feminine space, or I didn't care.
Yeah.
Um, Something happens when a loved one like that dies. Parts of you die.
Yeah.
And as a woman, part of me died because the man that I was doing stuff for was no longer there. So a part of me was like, I don't need to do this. There's no point in doing certain things because he's not here to benefit from what I do.
Right.
And what I lost sight of was that I should be benefiting from the things that I do too. I was so accustomed to doing stuff for him that I forgot to do it for me. So being in this quarantine situation actually made me think maybe I should stop living like I could go any minute now. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it ended up. Hey, sheep. That's what it ended up was in the back of my mind. I could go any minute now. So what's the point of trying to beautify space? I don't even want to be here. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. But I think Nikisha brought up something that was interesting. I mean, I'm sorry, not Nikisha, I'm sorry. Felicia brought up something interesting. She said, I had trouble adjusting. I think I had survivor's remorse because I have single parent friends and friends who lost income because of this, etc. I was also paranoid for months too. I didn't leave the house. I was financially all right during the quarantine. I didn't have any particular financial problems. I did not drive Uber that entire time, like from when they really shut it down in March or whatever, and all the way until they started opening back. And a little bit after that, I didn't drive Uber not a single day. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing it. I think I might have done maybe 2 days worth of work as a Instacart shopper because people were really busy ordering their food because they didn't want to come out. So it was really lucrative at that time to go to the store for people and then drop their groceries off. But I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to catch a shoe because I had caught it in January. At the end of January, I caught that. And it was not fun. So I was like, okay, I don't want to catch it again. So I didn't really do that. So basically, I didn't work. I was just on YouTube and I didn't work. I didn't do anything else. And the money that I had, I just saved it. And the money that I was accumulating from YouTube, I just saved it. There wasn't any spending. I mean, you know, I got an Amazon addiction anyway, quarantine or not. So that wasn't any different. So, you know, and I think I probably had a little bit survivor's guilt because I know some people that had a little bit of a mental breakdown because they were alone. And, you know, it was just, it was really heavy on them. So, I'm gonna let you say what you want to say, and then I'll get to an article that I wanted to read
Okay.
as well.
Well, I get the survivor's remorse because it goes into the hardest part of growing is facing yourself. Like a lot of times people have those buffers where it's a job or other people, and a lot of people do what they need to do to like tend to keep from facing themselves really, especially if they got outstanding issues. So in that time, after like say about 7 years of doing it, I've been kind of adjusted to it. Like I prefer to like look within first and then work from there. But it's not easy for people to, or I'm actually, you have people who felt they had an honest relationship until they had to spend this time, a lot more time together. That's when they start really seeing some things or uh, learning some things like, who the hell am I laying with? Or, who am I working with here? That's where you're hearing about things about divorces or separations. Or
Mhm.
on the opposite side of the spectrum, you got some people who have a bond can be built in there. But again, it is just in a way it's part of the game. It's just like it's your matter of perspective. You can benefit it or you can be a slave to it, but it's all about how you handle it.
And you know, I think what's got people messed up is that this quarantine it stopped you from mobility, education, profession, leisure, and wealth. It stopped
Right.
that distraction, and you had to deal with spiritual health, especially health, family appearance, and dwelling. You had to.
Mm.
And for a lot of people, that was a shock to their system.
Yes.
They had spent so much time being distracted away and allowing and knowing that they were being distracted purposely, not paying that close attention because they know, okay, things are stressful at home or the family or whatever. I got this problem, I got that problem. Let me focus on work or school or going somewhere or partying, or let me focus on these other things that will stop me or distract me from focusing on where my real issues actually are. And when the quarantine happened, and it was like you had to stop. You couldn't go. The job is stopped. You're furloughed or whatever, and you can't do the commute and you can't distract yourself anymore. You're at home during hours of the day where you usually are not, and you're seeing what you usually don't, and you are interacting in ways that you have avoided. And we saw that play out between husbands and wives. We saw it play out between parents and children, especially mothers who are used to their children being at school. And then now all of a sudden, for weeks on end, they're not going anywhere. And what it makes them face is they don't know how to be moms.
No.
They don't know anything about mothering. And that frustration set in. I really thought about the children who came from abusive homes where school was an escape for them, and then they didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now I'm at home with my tormentors all the time. And the psychological break that actually has to have on children. But I'm going to read this article. This is an article. Let me share it. This is an article that I found about Taraji P. Henson. Ooh, them some ugly sweaters y'all got. Okay. Ooh, that's ugly right there. All right. All right. So Taraji P. Henson has created a safe space for stars like Tamar Braxton to open up about their mental health journeys, and now she's doing the same. On a December 23rd installment of her Facebook Watch series, Peace of Mind with Taraji, the Golden Globe winner disclosed that she recently considered taking her own life. Speaking to Dr. LaShonda Green, Taraji detailed the dark moments she faced after the pandemic left her feeling withdrawn and isolated. During the quarantine, it's been hard on all of us, and I had a dark moment, she recalled. I was in a dark place for a couple of days. I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't care. That's not me. Then I started having thoughts about ending it, and it happened 2 nights in a row. Prior to this, Taraji said she had purchased a gun. The actress remembered thinking to herself, I could go in there right now and end it all because I want it to be over. When her 26-year-old son, Marcel, crossed her mind, Taraji told herself he'd get over it because he's an adult. After Taraji said she began withdrawing and stopped responding to concerned loved ones who had reached out, she realized she needed to speak up about her feelings. Finally, the 50-year-old, remember, I'm talking to one of my girlfriends, and I knew I was smart enough to say, I have to say it because part of me was ashamed. I was like, I don't want them to think I'm crazy. I don't want them to obsess over me. I think they got to come sit on me. Taraji continued. So one day I just blurted it out to my girlfriend. She called me in the morning and I was like, I thought about killing myself last night. Oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm not going to do it now. From the Hidden Figure star's perspective, by not sharing her experience with someone who cared, her thoughts would become a plan. She explained, what scared me is that I did it 2 nights in a row and the thoughts kept coming. Now I started thinking about how at first it was like, I don't want to be here. And then I started thinking about getting the gun. And that's when I woke up the next morning and blurted it out because I felt like after a while it was going to take over me and it was going to become a plan because that's how strong my brain is. Our thoughts, they're that powerful. Over the years, Taraji has used her star power to advocate for mental health resources, especially as they pertain to the Black community. I'm not going to finish the rest of that because that's unimportant. But what I did want to sort of point out is that you would think, and not that money makes everything be everything or necessarily that it makes everything be okay. But at the same time, you would think that someone who is that successful might have just a couple of people that they really trust and love that they can go to or something like that, or they would be able to find something to do with their mind and their time where it wouldn't be like, I got to end this, because you would think, what is she trying to end? What is this that's happening to her that she's looking to say, you know what? I just don't want to be here anymore. You know, and I'm sorry, I probably should have given a trigger warning for this show.
Yeah.
So my apologies to everyone because it can be triggering for other people, but I don't know, maybe I'm a weirdo. I wouldn't bother that. I'm probably a weirdo.
No, let's say you're just being honest with yourself. And why do you believe I mentioned that? It doesn't matter how many figures you have when you haven't figured yourself out yet. Like there's people who have those ridiculous amounts of dollars, but they're emotionally or spiritually bankrupt. So after a while, when you get a situation like this, or even when you are trying to drown yourself, drown out the noise of the dead silence within, you'll come to this extreme. Because I get where she's coming from. Because to a few times I've been there, to where I asked myself that question, or I sat at the ledge and like considered a few things. But then you had either people uh, make that timely call, or they just showed up to where you start remembering what's important, and the fact that you need to talk to people, like really talk to a certain people to get things out. There's too many people holding things in, or they're trying to find an escape from themselves. Because yeah, they can put a face on in public, but as soon as everyone leaves or you close the door, you know what the hell you're looking at. You know what the hell's going on with you. And unfortunately, confidentiality isn't a real valued commodity in this day and age. So these are the situations that you get, and some people tend to follow through, and there's no coming back from it. But that's lets you know, like, you can have all the wealth and influence you believe, but sometimes you really find out how truly alone you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately,
It's true. And I just can't get over the fact that this is really making people deal with who they are and not absorb themselves or throw themselves into what they are or what they've perceived themselves to be or what they think other people have perceived themselves to be. And it was so important, I think, she bringing up that concept because
yeah,
it's a concept that we kind of danced around. I danced around it in one of my videos, the who and the what, and doing so by splitting the 10 life values in the first 5 second five. And he did it again, not exactly in that way, but he did it in that way also, um, to say who you are and what you are different. It's so many people that can't stand themselves.
yeah,
They really have a disdain for themselves. It's either hatred or depression when it comes to themselves. They feel sad, and I think Bishop was right. Um, I think Bishop is right by saying she probably had to sit in some past traumas that she hadn't dealt with. And when you sit with yourself and think to yourself and all that you have are your thoughts, then you have to go through that fire. It's almost like being in ad seg, like all of us was in the hole. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta, you on 23 and 1, and you gotta think, and you just by yourself, and ain't nobody else to talk to or mess with or do nothing with or distract yourself somehow. You have to be able to sit with yourself. And I think and I'm just going to say this is actually the beautiful thing about working on yourself, your spiritual self. And even prior to this, if you had worked on it before, then you understand how it is to sit with yourself, because introspection takes that anyway, for you to like block out at some point the external things going on in your life and sit with yourself and say, okay, self,
yeah,
we got to deal with this because you're not functioning properly, and you know that you're not. You're putting up a good front, but we don't live with the front. Other people do. So you have to deal with who you are. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
nigga. No, and you're right about that. You do have to face yourself. As I told you, it's not easy. Um, in a lot of the traumas that I've been through throughout the years, I don't wear them as a badge. It's like it's an opportunity to like really address those things, because some people might not be willing to uh, understand or unpack them because they'll like unleash some things within themselves. So that's why you get a lot of people who will, either throw you off to the side or try to get away from you because of what you remind them of. But again, it's like that's why I do wellness checks. I call people to see what's going on with them, and that goes into the whole thing about a sensible giver. Like, yeah, you can give people your time, your honesty, in an attentive ear, but you have to give that same courtesy to yourself, if not more. So
Mhm.
whenever I do talk to certain people and help them get the load, that stressful load off their back and their mind, then I start looking back like, what is it that I need to fix for myself? It's healthy in a way because especially this day and age, there are some people who are trying to figure out where's the next dollar coming from, or how am I going to adjust, and then you start giving them suggestions of what they can do in this time. Like, uh, I'll say shout out to the roommates. They mentioned a thing about Skillshare, where you can just find out new things to adjust to where you can just course correct in this pandemic time and then start getting back into your groove, actually doing something that you really like to do and can get paid for. That that comes with your mental health because a lot of jobs we were accustomed to doing, we hated them. We just did it out of habit. Like, look, at least I got something. But if you do something fulfilling and you're getting paid for it, it's doubly rewarding in many ways.
Mhm.
So, what do you think?
Oh, first of all, Artisan is saying he can't hear you, so I don't know. I
Yeah,
hear you just fine,
I'm gonna
but
fix that.
and going to what you said about the jobs that you had and not liking them, and then maybe finding some other stuff that you could do that is more enjoyable, and
Mm-hmm.
finding out other skills that does help your mental health. It helps you to find something positive about you that you might not have known before, or you might have suspected it, but it's like, okay, now I don't have any excuse to not do some of the things that I probably should be doing or wanted to do, some hobbies or some other stuff that I wanted to engage in, or something I wanted to learn, that now I can learn. So that does actually assist you with your mental health. I wanted to read something that Felicia wrote that I thought was very powerful. She said, "That's where I am. I've gotten to know myself, and I realized, well, finally admitted something that I always felt in the back of my mind. That is, I'm not a good mom, and I've done damage to my children." And first of all, I want to thank you for having the strength to share that, Felicia, because having mothered children, it's always a worry of a mother, whether a real mother, a mother that cares. It's always a worry of hers whether she's doing right by her children or not.
Yeah.
And I worried about that when I was raising my siblings. I worried that I wasn't compounding what damage they had endured already. And for you to say that to yourself and then have the courage to say it out loud means, first of all, that you are a good mom.
Yeah.
And even though you may need to shore up some things, just your ability to admit, I probably could have done a better job, or I can do a better job, or I've made some mistakes with my children, that alone is something that will help you heal and forgive yourself and help your children to heal. Because I've had to do it, just sit down and have a conversation with your children, an honest conversation with them about the mistakes that you have made that have affected them. I guarantee you they've picked up more than you thought, and they understand more than you think that they do. They've seen more than you give them credit for having seen, and they understand better than you think that they do. And so it does them good to sit and have honest conversation with them about, okay, mom is human and mom has made some mistakes with you. And after you go through that and assess how they feel and say and apologize to them for that, children are so resilient and forgiving that they do forgive, and it actually helps them to, it gives them resolve so that they don't have to go into adulthood with an unresolved mommy issue.
Yeah.
You see, that could have been dealt with in a conversation or a couple of conversations. So I just want to thank you for having the courage to say that. And that's just my 2 cents of motherly from woman to woman to you.
Hey, that's important. Just and I say with some people I'm close to, say like some homies that I sit there work with or get on podcasts with. It's like we speak on things. It's like, look, just you don't have that ear that you need. I mean, sometimes you need to hear uh, from someone who gives a damn. Like, isn't gonna sit there and like point fingers at the time, or or someone needs that check. They're like, look, man, it's like you're better than this. Just because I see a standard in you. But it's a challenge, especially when you're not used to doing it, and that's what you're seeing. A lot of people who just feel like it's emotional or mental overload, where they're not looking to address it. It might be too intense for them. And with everything, you got to take baby steps with yourself more than anything. I mean, you put your all into everything else, but that's all because you find safety in distance from yourself. But
Mm.
when you look at it, you're really running from yourself. So, like I said, just with all this, you just have to be patient. If you're used to um, being out and having things taken care of for you, you gotta learn how to date yourself, or learn how to relate to others. Like really listen, not just listen for an opportunity to talk over somebody. Just learn how to listen and expect the same thing, and that way you learn how to. I don't know. It sounds dangerous, but actually have an honest, productive conversation that can lead to somewhere. I mean, I know it's not popular, but you can learn a lot of social training that is often dismissed in a very superficial, hypocritical society.
That's true. Um, I also want to read something that Bishop said. So I had to mourn all the deaths in relationships I didn't get over and grieve the past 5 to 10 years. I was on the move until C-19 made me sit still, dwell, and deal with it. And I want to get to that in a minute, Bishop, but I do want to just speak to what you were saying about learning how to have that conversation, learning how to date yourself, learning how to get in tune. It's so important because you would think people are in tune with themselves because they're them. But a lot of people are so distant
Hmm.
with their own selves, and they carry not only that relationship with themselves, like that, they carry all relationships with that same amount of distance that appears to be closeness. It appears to be, you know what I'm saying, being in tune and being in touch and all of that, those sorts of things. Thank you, Mogul Maze, for the Cash App. Um, it appears to be those things, but it's really not. Um, and I think that's one of the things that I had to learn. I had to relearn because I had to sit with some old traumas that I did not, um, that I hadn't dealt with in completion. I had dealt with them partially, but I had not dealt with them until they were completed. And because I hadn't dealt with some trauma, some old things, they manifested in different ways in which I was behaving dysfunctionally. One of the ways that it was manifesting was the way I was carrying myself publicly on YouTube. While it was entertaining for others, it was really a lot of times coming from a place of hurt and a place of not understanding how to truly complete a healing process. I would get so far in it, and then it would be like, I don't know what to do with this now. And part of that was I gotta keep living. I gotta keep doing other stuff So it gives you the opportunity to bury parts of it where you don't have to deal with it. It's like, okay, I don't have to deal with it. And I don't think until now, until having to sit in the quarantine, I had not properly grieved the loss of my late husband and my son. I had not properly grieved that. I was grieving and working, grieving and paying bills, grieving and grinding and that's not really a proper way, to do that. We be so living paycheck to paycheck that you can't afford financially to stop and say, I need 6 months, you know what I'm saying, to process this to completion so that I can really function. It's like I got to function through the hurt and the pain and the crying and you know what I'm saying? Like like I told y'all, he passed away. And then that next week or two, I was at work. That next week I was at work. I was because I had been out of work. Then I reapplied, got the job, had to go through training. I'm sitting in training crying. Good thing it was at home work, but still, it was still work. I still had to present a face. We in the training class trying to know how to navigate the systems and this and that. And they trying to teach me the system and I'm on mute bawling. I can't even hear the teaching because I'm curled up in the fetal position. And when they call my name, Kendra, did you hear that? Yeah, I heard it and I ain't hear nothing. I got to scramble and try to figure out what was said and what was done, you know what I'm saying, and all that type of stuff. So this quarantine actually made me sit and grieve it and deal with it. And like, okay, now, you know what I'm saying? Now it's done. And I think that's what has given me a sense of just peace and calm. I'm sorry again. I be gone. I be gone, y'all.
One thing is like most times it's accustomed to not being actually heard. Yeah, I mean, you get people who will talk around you, or you'll sit there and like you have that freedom to actually express yourself, and then you end up apologizing, which you shouldn't. But that's the problem with emotional timeshares. Like you never, it's really a mismanagement of your time and your effort. Like you'll stay there for a little while, but then after a while, you go back to doing what you're doing, and you got an unnecessary bill you're living with. That's why I'm thankful for, I have my dog who pops up every now and then, Chico. Like, you'll just come. It seems like they're intuitive. Like whenever you're having a bad day or something like that, they'll just sit around, like they'll jump on your lap and then just look at you, and then,
Mm-hmm.
or just they'll provide that little entertainment. Like it's not so bad because uh, you really have to enjoy being around yourself. Just there's some people like who look in the mirror and they can't stand what they see. So that's why I find amusement in the whole wearing a mask out here, but really it's tragic comedy because like while people can put up a front in real time, I can actually see and feel people like basically losing themselves in the whole process. And that's when I start asking certain questions like, what's really going on? How you really feeling? I mean,
Right.
what's up? What's going on? If it's one-on-one, it's a lot better. That way they don't have to be in front of an audience. I was like, look, you ain't got to be embarrassed. I mean, like, this is what it is, and again, it's like, that relatability is, a viable tool, but a lot of people feel it's a foreign language because they can't even relate to themselves,
Right.
which is scary.
That is a scary thing. It's scary to be forced to sit with yourself and then be lost in the abyss of that. Like to just go into despair. And I don't have a scathing commentary for people that can't figure it out. It's just interesting, especially when you're an adult and you can't figure it out. You're forced to be with yourself, and then it's like, I hate me. Like you look around and it's like I hate my life. I actually hate my life. Um, I do things to pretend that I don't. but I hate my life. I hate myself. I hate the people that I have included in my life. I don't like none of these people. Um, I don't like my kids. I don't like my husband. I don't like my wife. I don't like my mama. I don't like my daddy. I don't like my brothers and sisters. Like, I don't like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't like these people, you know what I'm saying? And then that's just an interesting thing, man. I just find that to be such a massive, it can be talked about in so many ways. Like, even if you never got sick physically, excuse me, even if you never got sick physically,
Right.
having to, like, it's gotta be just this overwhelming thing to look across the bed or the table or the room and see a person you might have been with for the last 10 years, 12 years, 7 years, 8 years, and really have to think, why am I with you?
Yeah.
And like that be a legit
Yeah.
question that you gotta answer. Like, why? What are we doing?
Mm.
Like, what are we really doing? You know what I'm saying? Because thank you, RJ. Because it's so easy to just get caught up in the rat race, and it's like, oh well, I got somebody in their home, blah 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 blah. And it's like when you gotta sit with them, it's like, I don't like you. As a matter of fact, not only do I not like you, I don't think I love you.
Mm.
And I've been saying I love you because I thought that's how I felt. But now, how we have been interacting, how we have been, we like kind of like cats and dogs, or in some places we oil and water. And it's like, why was I ever actually attracted? I don't even remember
Yeah.
why I wanted you in the first place. And when I take inventory over my life, I don't know that we've been good. And then the next question that needs to follow that is that a true perception or is that a projection
Mm.
from me? Because I've been in a relationship that I'm now suddenly dissatisfied with.
Whew.
So, what part of me was participating in this? And what part of me facilitated this as well? And I think that's probably the most uh mind breaking part for some people.
Yeah.
It just break their mind. Like I did this. Like I manufactured all of this.
Yeah.
Somehow I played a role and then I hate it. And it's like, man, but I did it though. So how do you get out of that little conundrum? Like I hate it, but I did it.
Uh, that definitely describes my timeline between 2009 all the way to 2014. And the messed up part is I went from one bad situation to even worse. And that I think
Mm.
that's what really made me snap. Because like I looked in the mirror quite a bit and I asked myself, what the hell are you doing here? And you look at that person like, why are you here? Like, it's not like you like looking down on them like that. It's like, what am I doing to where I'm here with you? Because
Right.
I'm messed up. And or you'll be and just put it bluntly, you could be laying with somebody and your body is like, you know you're not supposed to be here. You're not.
Mhm.
The reason why I'm not working because this is not meant to happen. I,
Mhm.
I gave you a few freebies, but no, we good. This ain't it. You can
Yeah.
do it. I checked out, and again, it's like you say things like I love you because it's automatic because it sounds good, or you try to uh, jump start a relationship that has long been dead. But really, in many ways, you are shown that you need to reconcile with yourself. Sometimes we divorce ourselves from ourselves or reality in general, and we try to find a perfect scapegoat or a sexual crash test dummy to get our stress off. But in the end, you end up defeating yourself. And that's where you're like, you know what? I'm tired of living this lie. Even if you put a ring on it, the ring around your bathtub sometimes has more value than that ring or that promise you made
Mm-hmm.
with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you listen. Going around folk, they got bad energy.
Yeah.
You study going over there because there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you trying to play like it ain't nothing wrong with you, something wrong with them. So why you over there again? Why are you messing with that person? Because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And that a lot again, that's like the hardest part because it's like, what's up with my choices? What has my life boiled down to at this point?
Yeah.
Like when you sit up and just look at it, it's like, okay, I'm over here. I'm in this area. I'm with this person. I'm in this house. These are conditions that I would not normally be in under any normal circumstances. I've never been in them before. Why am I in them now? And it's like, why am I dealing with this type of situation, these dynamics? Like, why am I dealing with this stuff? And then you got to turn it, and it's so easy to turn it to the other person
Yeah.
and be like, nah, you the one messed up. You the one doing this. And they might actually be messed up. Like, I'm not saying that that it's not possible. But at the same time, when you point one finger, you got three more pointing back at you. So you got to look at these three to figure out what's going on because I'm over here and I don't remember a gun being to my head at no point in time. So since I was not under duress to be in this situation and remain in this situation for X amount of time, then now I gotta try to figure out, okay, all right, so we gotta back up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something about you that like this. And this is disgusting.
Yeah.
So what part of me is disgusting? You know what I'm saying? What part of me hates itself that I need to address, that I need to try to figure out? You know what I'm saying? And again, that's like the hardest part for a lot of people to do is to figure out what part they are playing in all of the decisions that they are making.
Yeah. I got myself into those situations because of emotional distress and actually running away from the situation at hand. So I ran from one situation into a bad situation to a screwed up situation.
Mm,
And it came back full circle. So, you know what? For your safety and my sanity, this has to end. I wasn't just talking to her, I was telling that to myself.
mm-hmm,
And then the time I was starting to get to, healing myself, I know it's an H word, but now you had individuals trying to come back and like really keep you from that process. They figure they can sedate you with sex or superficial gains or even monetary means. But you can never put a price on peace of mind. That's why when you are around someone, like not just chemistry wise, but they actually respect your boundaries and your passions and what you're about, that level of peace of mind, that's the difference maker between making a house and a home. It's a
mm-hmm,
whole different element. It's not no combative nonsense. Like you can go raise hell out in the world, but when you come back to that place of peace and quiet, you can actually, be a better person. You don't age as fast. You don't uh
mm-hmm,
have those fits to where like you gotta every time you come home, you're sitting in front of the house and you gotta either just really mentally prepare yourself to go in, or you gotta go out and go get a few drinks before you come to the house. You can be
yeah,
your genuine self. You could be uh there's some people who would lose their mind if you actually sat with the person you actually cared about and had a conversation quietly without saying a word. Some people have never been through that. And so, again, it's like they're supposed to be a reflection of you and your standards and like your perception of you in a sense and your values. So if you have someone that you're looking at, you're always bitching and complaining about, that requires a self check because you didn't hook up with that person by gunpoint,
right,
and it goes double if you happen to have a child at that situation. That's why I'm very mindful of just run around here just smashing and happily, unfortunately getting a child into the situation, because the children learn from that. They see everything you think they don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's probably why it's hard to see your part in it, because the person that you with is a reflection of your standards and how you view yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what you think you actually are worthy of, and what you think you deserve. And if that person is somehow below par, well, you got to think about that. You know what I'm saying? Were they below par when you met them? Did they get, is this, are you having problems with them with with things that you knew about from day one? Now it's day 1262 and now you got a problem with that. Like, that person been on that since day one. Why are you upset now? You know what I'm saying? That they're still on that. They were there to begin with. And there was no guarantee that they would change.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have any guarantee that they weren't going to be on that, you know what I'm saying, 2 or 3 years down the line. So if it was a problem from day one, it should have been problem enough for you to be like, nah, I'm not dealing with it because this is a problem. These little traits and these little things are problems. But we accept stuff that we think we deserve. And if you've moved on to a point in yourself where you can no longer accept that person as they are, you got two choices.
Yeah.
You can attempt to help them elevate if the relationship is like that. This is a marriage, you've been there 10, 12 years, you might not want to just chuck it in the garbage right away. You might want to try to see if you can inspire them to be a better version of them because you are working on a better version of you. Or if that doesn't work and that can't work, then you might have to leave that situation. But at some point, you do have to take accountability for the situation that you're in. Whatever relationship you're in, whether it's abusive, whether it's happy, whether it's peaceful, whether it's tumultuous, you have to take your share of the accountability for why that relationship is going the way it's going and why you're still there dealing with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And sadly, there's too many people who are willing to put a ring or commit to their dysfunction. Like they will literally marry their dysfunction, and because they're afraid of being by themselves or fixing themselves. Uh, when I saw 3 generations of shattered women, and seeing like if I was really serious about it, what I was about to inherit, that scared the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I knew I was screwed up, but to see 3 levels of screwed up right there, hell no. And then one wanted to get married, and I was like, "There's no way I'm not gonna do that. I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy enough to do that." And then when I left that one, and I went to another one that was talking about having a child, and I said no. And she said, "Why?" I said, "Like, having a child and this dysfunction that we got is literally child abuse." And so I'm not contributing to that. And then went back and forth. She said, "Well, what if I got pregnant?" I said, "I'll tell you to abort that bastard, because at least that'd be a humane way to let that child be at peace rather than to see the nonsense that we pass on as its inheritance." So that's a level of self respect and understanding. It might be blunt, but that's how we have to be with ourselves sometimes. And and some people hook up just for to appease people in their circle who really don't give a damn about what you're talking about or feeling. That's another way you get trapped in that little prison of glass walls. You put this appearance on like I got everything together, but you're in solitary confinement around everybody else. They know
Mm-hmm.
that you are. They could smell the loneliness within you. They could smell that fear of success in you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why sometimes you have to get off to yourself and learn how to re-educate yourself on yourself. Because if you allow yourself to go in a relationship as a dropout, that's going to spill out to the next generation. In many ways, you see that, but it's part of the thing, I think.
Yeah. And I want to speak to something there said, Anime said, after 10 years, it's a habit. At that point, it's a fool's errand to try to elevate a bad spouse. But see, this is what I'm actually talking about, though.
Yeah.
If for 10 years the marriage has not been good, that's been both of you. A bad spouse is not a bad spouse on their own. And a bad relationship is typically not bad just because of one person. It's usually both of you. Because if they have had bad behavior in a relationship for 10 years, that also means on the flip side, 10 years you've been accepting it. So if you've been accepting it for 10 years and that's been the standard of acceptable behavior, then how can you expect them to act any different with you? You accepted it. You accepted that behavior, whatever it was, as the standard of their behavior that you were going to tolerate. And you weren't going to leave as long as that behavior is being done. You see what I'm saying? So that's just my thing. If you, the only way that any of that works is if you have done the internal work yourself. And then you start elevating. Now there's a different standard that must be set now. And it's like, okay, we was doing this and both of us had our dysfunctions going on and we was accepting it. But now I've done the work. I'm expecting you to follow suit of what I'm doing. If I'm doing the work to be better, then you should automatically be trying to match me on that. Now, I may need to give you some incentive or talk to you about this new direction that this relationship needs to go in and how we need to elevate as a couple, as individuals and as a couple. He or she is only going to do one of two things. They're either going to rise to the occasion and meet you at the new standard, or they're not. And at that point, you need to make a decision about what you're going to do. Thank you, Will 33. Our whole community is mentally damaged. We have no control of nothing in our environment. Well, that can be questionable because I think environment can be defined as couple of different ways. If we're talking about just the wide world at large, we have less of an influence on that than we do our immediate environments, which we have a greater influence over. But I think that's actually part of the problem as well. Will 33, we won't exercise control over or influence over the parts that we do have influence over. We won't pay attention to that either. Right. And then it's like, oh, woe is me. Something's happening in my environment. I can't control it. Well, you could have influenced some of that stuff. You just didn't want to. You just weren't paying attention is what was wrong with you.
Or scared to address it.
Scared to address it. Hey, Amanda. And thank you, BJ, for the cash out.
Oh, man. Yeah, the way I look at it is just like we need to be brutally honest with ourselves and each other. Like, if you're going to invest time, energy, and fluids to an extent, you have to really be you treat every relationship like an entrepreneurial business. Like, y'all have like either monthly, quarterly, annual meetings where y'all say like, hey, what's going on? What are we doing here? Just to let that person know what's happening. Just or matter of fact, learn how to learn each other's interpretation of love language. Some people receive it and express it in so many ways, and you got people that they have this language barrier where it is like, well, only time we can understand each other is when we're fighting or in the bed. It has to extend beyond that. So again, it goes back to influencing each other and the people around us, especially if you got children, because like growing up as a child and started seeing fights and all nonsensical stuff, I was more confused, but then early I was learning like, okay, this is unhealthy. Like it's the only time I'll really get into it is like whether it's in the heat of passion or just in the heat of argument. And that's why I started looking elsewhere for understanding because this has got to be much more than this. That's where a lot of little dysfunctions as a youth really started to manifest. Like even at like say in high school, I would say sophomore year, that was the first real S word attempt because I was just in the kitchen with a kitchen. I didn't understand what was going on. It's like if this is what life is, I don't want no parts of it. And then just
Mm-hmm.
something told me it's like, no, just figure it out a little while longer. This isn't what you think it is. And then over time, you started running into a lot of stuff, and it's like it made me more resilient to an extent. But I had like a blatant indifference to other things, and that was a mean of protecting myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I would advise anybody is like, uh, before you have any serious relationship with somebody, um, you got to be that first commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Respect what you like, respect you're about, respect where you stand for, respect what you built. Uh, that way, you know if someone's really feeling that and rolling that, it becomes a lot easier than just trying to appeal to your vanity or what your loins are telling you right off in the moment. That's why I hate instant gratification. Like if I've earned something, I'm going to protect it. But if it's something that came easily, like just oh wow, like just what it is, I don't really keep it around. I was like, all right, I just cast it off. But that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that little indifference thing going too, but it's important because I think so many people get into relationships without knowing anything.
mm,
We don't know who we are, number one.
yeah,
Number two, we get into relationships and situationships without any conversation.
yeah,
No one talks about with each other the expectation, the standard. And this goes to what you were saying about learning your other person's love language and stuff like that. You don't take the time to get to know the person, and because you didn't have any proper conversations prior to smashing and prior to doing all, and even prior to having children, like all of this goes on without the conversations that actually need to take place and say, okay, this is what I expect out
yeah,
of this. If we're going to get into a relationship, then I need X, Y, and Z. What do you need? And a lot of times, because we don't know ourselves, we can't even articulate our needs in a relationship. We can't even say, well, I need this and this and this from you because we have not given ourselves anything. So it's like, how do you expect somebody to give you these things that you think are going to make you happy, but you don't even know because you don't even know who you are. So you don't know what makes you happy. You don't know what gives you contentment or peace, you know what I'm saying, or solace or anything, especially asking it from another person. And then other times we don't accept what the other person's capabilities and limitations. We don't even accept them. If they say I can't do that, or they demonstrate to us that what we want they cannot do, and if it's an important thing, we'll just keep going. Sometimes if the sex is good, or if the money is good, or you know what I'm saying, or whatever other superficial thing that's not as important, it exists, we'll be like, oh well, I could just work on that another time. No, you can't. This is actually a deal breaker and you don't know it.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because a little bit down the line, this is going to be a much bigger problem than you think it is right now. So we do all of that stuff and we don't even have conversations, proper conversations. There are no expectations. There's no standards set. There's nothing. And then you get into the relationship and it's like, man, but I want this, this, that, and the third. And it's like, but you didn't say that. Nobody said that.
yeah.
So
Okay.
um we're gonna end up just kind of wrapping this up because y'all, I'm tired. I'm not even gonna lie to
Yeah, I
y'all.
see. You
I
go.
I have some errands to run first, and then I gotta like crash. But I'm gonna give Ronin a chance to say what he needs to say,
Mm.
and then we're going to wrap up.
Well, in close, it's like I'm going to be honest. Like whenever there were those times, it's very few rare times that I'm just going to meet up with someone, have a small conversation, we have some late night gymnastics, and then go from there. But even still, when you interact with people, you let them say what they need to say, but you watch for the follow through, not just for them, but for yourself. Because you're not just watching them, you're watching how you respond to them. You're watching how you're receiving things. You're watching, the interaction, how that goes. And then afterward, you do some homework. Like, okay, this person's cool, but nah, this ain't it. Or this person, okay, this person's solid. Or it's not just them. I was like, is this really important? How's this getting in the way of my purpose? How's this, adding to it or taking away from it? That's something that's really healthy you need to do. That's something I've been doing for a minute, but it takes a lot of practice, because when you think about it, in the end, you have to remember you are your best investment.
Mm-hmm. And with those words of wisdom, we are going to check out. But before we check out of here, the time is winding up. Time is winding up for the 20% off sale for A Game. Okay. So go into the description box, hit the link, get yourself a 20% discount using the code Kendra20. So guys, give yourself the gift of good health, and ladies, give that same gift to the men in your life. And with that, we are out. Peace.
Peace. Wash your hands.
Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel, by clicking the description box and the link for A Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.